I finished the Claws of Awaji DLC, so I'm going to share some of the things I wish I'd known earlier, including how to find the secret weapons and armor that don't appear on the map, and what you should or shouldn't do so you can have a smoother and more enjoyable experience in this DLC. No spoilers in this video, of course, and let's go over the most important info first, which is how do you actually play this DLC if you haven't logged in a while? Firstly, you need to own the Shadows base game, and then you can download and play this expansion for free, but you need to have completed 3 important things before you can actually access this new content. Otherwise, you're going to get this prompt on your screen when you do log in. Now, you will need to kill all the targets on your Shinbaku objective board in the objective menu. And secondly, you'll need to complete Yasuke's, Naoe's, and Junjiro's personal side quests. And thirdly, you then need to finish the Out of Shadows quest that appears in your hideout once those are done. Now, once you have rolled the credits in the main game, or perhaps you already have done so, when you do log in, you will get this expansion alert on your screen. And from there, you can then start the Hattori Hanzo quest, which will appear in your hideout here on your map, followed by taking Junjiro to a puppet show at this location on your map. And that then unlocks the Awaji DLC as its own fast travel zone, with the story taking around 4 to 6 hours. And if you are chasing completion, you're going to be looking at around 8 to 12 hours for that 100% completion. But before you head to the island, there are some new upgrades that you do not want to miss. Because again, if you haven't logged in a while, you may not have noticed this big change, which is the Kakurega can now be upgraded in your hideout, which then unfogs the map, just like in previous games. So all of your synced viewpoints in this region will now show you everything. And that benefit, which I've tested, now carries over into Awaji. I'd also recommend you upgrade your Nando to level 2, as this now lets you meditate and change the time of day, just like we could in Valhalla, which is perfect for setting up missions however you want them to be set up in the expansion. And then you also want to bump that terror building to level 3, which gives you a 20% XP boost, which adds up quite nicely in this DLC, as there is a lot of rewards and enemies to kill. But if you are short on your hideout supplies, of course, it's another grind here, then to get these upgrades, I'd recommend just fast traveling to the Kakurega locations in each of your regions in the main game and completing plunder contracts. They only take a minute or so of your time, and they're even quicker actually if you just sprint into the bandit camp, loot the chest, and then sprint out, as you can see me do here, which gets your hideout resources in no time for these upgrades. Now, once those upgrades are sorted, you can then head over to Awaji, but don't just sprint straight off the dock straight into the story, because the very first thing that you should do on the island is this. And that is getting on your horse or your man and using the Pathfinder button to auto run to each of these viewpoints, which I'm going to put on the screen right now, because thanks to that Kakurega upgrade, the whole DLC map will then just unlock the moment that you do sync them. Now, doing this quite simple tip straight away has a huge benefit to you rather than just seeing the whole map, and that's because the roadblock mechanic from the island's army or the random appearing spies and shinobi ambushes aren't spawned yet. They only actually start taking effect after you start the first quest. So this is your chance to roam freely on this island, looting gear and ticking off all those side activities without interruptions, because the story missions as well on top of that also sit right next to a lot of these fast travel points. So if you want to binge the campaign in one kind of consistent run so it's not disjointed, this sets you up perfectly to do that as well. And if you combine this with this fast travel bug I found at the Sumoto Kakurega here on your map, it will actually just let you fast travel out of all of the restricted zones like castles or camps, or when you're in combat in this DLC. And this saved me a ton of time where I didn't need to waste my own time trying to exit the camp or castle to be able to then fast travel, which made the whole expansion flow so much easier and so much better for me. And by the way, actually, if you are finding this guide useful so far, please hit the new hype button down below. It's I honestly have no idea what YouTube's cooked up here with it, but apparently it helps support the channel, which I really appreciate. So especially how long these videos take. My God, I haven't slept in about 3 days, so I hope you find them helpful. Please like and hype. I very much appreciate it. Now, as useful as that fast travel bug is, the first proper new system that you'll want to mess with is the bow weapon. But how and when do you get this weapon once you're on Awaji? Well, after unlocking the map, I'd finally recommend starting the storyline. And this first mission only takes around 20 to 30 minutes and ends with Naoe receiving the bow. That then triggers a tutorial quest that introduces this new posture stance system, and it also rewards you with the bow trinket, which is quite easily missed. So that actually boosts your damage by 40% with posture attacks if you max out the mastery points in its tree, or if you've got those points to do so. Very beneficial. It also comes with 3 new abilities for Naoe with this weapon. You've got the grab and throw that lets you launch enemies at nearby targets, which is good good fun, but it is limited as you can't specify which target or where to throw them. Secondly, you've got the Flurry of Blows, which is a fast 5-strike finisher move, which is pretty standard. And thirdly, you've got Wind Step, which doubles your dash or run distance, keeping those kind of combos ticking over with this new weapon. But it does lock you into a long animation where you'll still be vulnerable to attacks from enemies, which brings us to the open world here in Awaji. It's full of activities, but not all of them are worth your time. With one of the main changes here being that with the Waji, instead of painting animals like in the main game, you've now got 3 Sumiti landmarks based on real Awaji island locations. Those are the Esima Rock, the Naruto Whirlpools, and the Izagani Shrine at the island's center. Some very nice cutscenes associated with these when you get there, but nothing more than just sightseeing in-game tourism here. You've also got 5 shrines to pray at if you want, 2 temples to collect lost pages, 2 kata timed events, and 1 Kuji Kiri timed event. These are of course world filler, which do give you knowledge points but no secret rewards or anything, so if you're not fussed you can skip them, or you can just turn on autocomplete in the settings if you're chasing that 100% completion without having to partake in this mini game grind. But the stuff you don't want to skip are the new forts. You've got the Sumoto Castle in the middle that has 5 Daisho bosses you need to kill. You've got Awaya Castle up north, which has 4, and Yura Castle down south, which has 2, and completing those ties directly into the armor sets that you will want to pick up early, because I found it way more enjoyable playing through the story in one go whilst actually wearing the new outfits in the cutscenes. The first being Naoe's Bowmaster outfit, which in my opinion looks fantastic in those cutscenes, especially now that the headgear can finally appear in them thanks to one of the latest updates, which you can turn on in the settings menu, by the way. And as for Yasuke, the Fishscale Berserker armor looks genuinely awesome in my opinion with that kind of stag mask. Honestly, one of my favorite sets in the game so far. But how do you get both of these early? Well, after unlocking the map, head down south to Yuri Castle and take down those 2 Daisho. That then unlocks the Bowmaster outfit from the legendary chest in that fort. Then you want to cross the road to the shipyard here on your map and loot the legendary chest there on top of the deck to grab the Bowmaster headband. Now, as for Yasuke's fish scale set, you want to grab the helmet from the legendary chest at the Fukura bandit camp further south on the coast of the island here, and the main armor set from another legendary chest in the samurai residence in Sumoto. So quite easy pickups with both of these pieces being available early. You can actually fully transmog them as well to your current outfits or builds that you've currently got going, and then you can just play the DLC visually how the developers have intended us to do so. As for Naoe's final armor set, Yukuri's mask and Yukuri's armor set, it's only unlocked of course after you completed the main DLC storyline, and is perhaps the biggest incentive to do so in my opinion, because I think it is actually my favorite looking armor set of Naoe's since the release of the game, especially the mask. So big fan of that. Good job to the team. And once you've actually got all of that handled, there is still another set of secret gear that is very easy to miss and harder to get hold of. And that is the Fisherman's outfit for Yasuke and the Ophidian feeder Kusarigama for Naoe. It took me about 5 times to record that. They are the 3 legendary items that never appear on your map, quest log, or objective board. In fact, you could play through the whole DLC and never even know they exist or loot them. And here's how they work. There are 9 clues in total to get all 3 of these items, and there are 3 clue drops, 1 from each faction in the game that is associated with the boss. The first one is called Tomiji's Prize, and that will be dropping, or you can pick it up from the army blockades around the map. The second is Nawaki's Memento, and that will drop from the shinobi ambushes that pop up while you travel around the game. And the third is Yushira's Secret, and they drop from spies or fishermen disguised as traders also around the game. Now, these enemies, random spawns, respawn, so you can farm these 3 clues of each faction multiple times. It's not a specific drop around the map, and that means just kind of refreshing this road here on your map until each of those 3 factions respawns as you run up and down it, and they will drop all 3 of those clues without fail. Now, location wise, if you're not interested in that, I've solved the clues for you. So for the Fisherman's outfit, you need to go to the western shore just south of the wrecked boat and loot the chest under this twisted tree. For the straw hat, it actually changes its respawn depending upon the season. So in the summer or winter, you want to go to the Yuri Castle storage safe house here on your map, but in spring or autumn, it will be located in the Sumoto Castle instead at this storage house location. Now, both spawn right on the top of the resources in the storage rooms. You have to kind of physically climb up here, and they are not in a chest, so it just kind of looks like it's part of the storage or just an item you can't interact with. That's not true. You can loot it, so it's very sneaky from Ubisoft indeed there. Now, as for Naoe's Kusarigama, you want to head to the Torii Gate on the map here at the Trail of Eshima, but take a left before you go through it and head into the forest. You'll loosely be following this path here until you find the Ophidian feeder embedded in the wood here, and you actually have to get right up close to it again before it lets you loot it. And this will be, I'm going to put the exact location of that on your map here as well. Now, I have checked this across multiple saves, but you don't actually need to pick up the clues to then loot these items. Even if you finish the DLC, you can go straight to these locations and collect them directly. This, of course, took me longer than playing through the entire expansion to kind of figure out. So if this does help you out, please do like on the video at the very least. I would massively appreciate it. Now, the legendary gear doesn't stop there, because the DLC also adds a fresh lineup of new weapons and skills for you to get. And let's power through the new legendaries now and where you get them and what skills they unlock, so you can decide which ones are worth your time. First, you've got Heron's Flight Katana for Yasuke, and that's earned by defeating the 4 Daisho at Awaji Castle. This can be used in conjunction with the new Wind Slash ability, letting you hold R1 or R2 to charge up a wide area stagger attack, and the longer you hold that, the more damage you will deal. Next is the best offensive Naginata, obtained by dueling the Ashugaru NPC at the base of the ship here on your map. It's called the Memories of the Battle Quest. It pairs well with this new Hurricane skill stance as a spinning attack that kind of chews through enemy waves. Very good for the story and good fun to use in this expansion. You've then got the Crimson Coolbow for Yasuke, which drops at the Sumoto Castle after you defeat 5 of those Daisho. It can be used in conjunction as well with this new Spread Shot ability, a melee knockback initially followed by a then further pushback shot with your arrows, which is good for close quarters but otherwise low damage output there. And next you've got the Bone Shake Kanobo, which comes from the general of the Sanzoku Ippa, one of the bosses in the game, which is paired well with the new Kanobo throw. It of course deals a decent amount of damage, but the long animation means it's better used as a finisher. Now, firearm wise, you also have the Little Helper Teppo, which is dropped by the Ambusher boss, which visually is a pretty cool looking rifle. So props to the design team there, obviously had a little bit of fun. Now, moving on to the Tanto for Naoe, it's called the Last Resort, and this is dropped by the Spy Master boss. Nothing flashy visually here, but you wouldn't expect a flashy weapon from a Spy Master, would you? So yeah, fair enough. And then finally, you've got Suyu's Katana, which drops from the final boss of the DLC, and paired with her armor set and red bow weapon, all of these come together quite nicely. Now, these new items aside, there is still one last category of loot left for you to get, and that is the end game trinkets. But are they actually worth grinding for? Well, depending upon when you finish the story, 3 new quests do appear on your objective menu here. Those are Nawaki's Ambushers, which tasks you with eliminating 7 of her lieutenants, followed by Yasuhira's Spies, that adds 5 of his own spies for you to kill, and then Tomichi's Captains, which makes you hunt down 14 of them. Now, I'd recommend you wait until after the main story to do these, because once their bosses are dead in the main story, these targets then stop spawning randomly across the map and just cluster spawn together in one specific place on the map, as you can kind of see here. Now, that makes it way easier to clear them out in one go, and they also drop plenty of loot and transmog variants, plus a ton of XP if you've upgraded that terror we spoke about earlier for the 20% boost. Now, as for rewards though, for actually completing these 3 quests, the trinkets themselves are very underwhelming. Yasuke gets the Fisherman's Hook for eliminating all of Yasuhira's spies, which slows time for 5 seconds when aiming a ranged weapon at full health, which is not too bad. However, Tomichi's Captains drop the Circle of Fortune here, which gives a 50% damage reduction while climbing, which is completely useless. And Nawaki's Ambushers drop the Seed of the Forest, which gives the same effect for Naoe, which is honestly some of the worst stat bonuses for trinkets I think I've ever seen in this AC series. And before we move on to pro tips, quick one. Most of you watching my videos aren't subscribed, so if these guides have been helpful over the years, do consider hitting that subscribe button, as it helps out massively for YouTube. It's a great way to support me, and it means you don't miss the next breakdown or the next videos coming up for Assassin's Creed and of course Ghosts of Yote, which I will be covering and I'm playing right now on launch. So again, thanks very much for your support. Now for a couple of extra tips that really help me out, and I think they'll do the same for you in game. When you do reach the general's boss fight, you'll get the option to face him with all of his captains alive instead of across the map as we've just kind of discussed. So if you're up for the challenge, I'd suggest you try and complete this fight in one go. You'll not only get all of the loot, XP rewards, and mastery points in one fight, but it will save you hours of hunting them across the island or just having to wait until the end of the game to kind of smash them individually in one fort. And as for another boss fight, the ambusher boss fight in particular, here's a few tips that I actually learned from the developers at Ubisoft Bordeaux when I visited their studio a few weeks ago. Firstly, throw a shuriken or knife at the rope traps when you are in this fight. She will then fire her weapon, her teppo, and give away her position instantly. And once she's lost 2 health bars, you can now damage her with throwing knives from range positions, which you can't do for the first 2 health bars. And when she's down to her last health bar, she always spawns at the top of the tower, which makes the whole fight a lot cleaner and faster. I managed to beat her in 4 minutes and 50 seconds. So if you manage to do that quicker, so make sure you save before the boss fight and then load in. Let me know down in the comments because I would owe you a very firm handshake. Now, I've made more Shadows videos just like this that I think you'll enjoy, especially my breakdown of the hidden secrets and Easter eggs you probably missed in this game. So click that video on your screen right now and I will see you there in just a second. Big thanks again to Ubisoft Bordeaux and to Liam and Livy for the UK team for early access so I can get this video out to you quickly. And as always, this time, sake is on me.